Morning, Chairperson.
Are we ready?
Morning.
Chair, we are ready.
Yes. Before we proceed, let me just get one item out of the way. A few weeks ago, I just want to make an announcement. A few weeks ago, Ms. Dudumieni gave evidence via video link in this commission, and in the process of her evidence, disclosed the identity of a witness whose identity I had ordered should not be disclosed. Subsequently, she furnished the commission with an affidavit in which she explained her conduct. Since then, the legal team has looked at her affidavit. I've looked at her affidavit, and I have instructed the legal team to assist the Secretary and prepare the documentation necessary so that the Secretary of the Commission can lay a criminal complaint against Ms. Dudumieni for the police to investigate a possible contravention of either Section 5 of the Commissions Act or Regulation 9 of the regulations of the Commission. And that process will be taken forward urgently. Okay, that's the end of that announcement. Mr. Chairperson.
Thank you, Chair. Just some housekeeping before we begin today. We will be working in files FOF 2 and 3 today. And we need to identify some annexures at the Chair. In FOF 2, there is a Regulation 10.6 notice at page 390.
And that's Flow Funds Bundle 2.
That's correct, Chair.
Yes.
Can I ask that notice dated 17 September be entered as VV 3.1?
What page is it?
Page 390. 390.
You say it should be exhibit?
Double V 3.1. Then, Chair.
The directive in terms of Regulation 10.6 of the regulations of the Commission, starting at page 390, is admitted as exhibit WV 3.1.
Then, Chair, there is a second exhibit, a second 10.6 notice at page 395, if that can be VV 3.2. That is the notice calling for an affidavit. It's dated 5 October.
The directive in terms of Regulation 10.6, which starts at page 395, is admitted as exhibit VV 3.2. Is that right?
That is correct, Chair.
3.2. Okay.
Then, Chair, Mr. Makhubo furnished an affidavit in response to that second notice, and this affidavit certainly does comply with Rule 10.6, Chair. That's to be found at page 404.
Okay.
And
that one we will admit after he has confirmed his signature, isn't it?
Indeed. There's that affidavit and a supplementary witness statement and a bundle. If we can reserve 3 and 4 for the affidavit and the witness statement.
Yes.
And if I might take you to the bundle, which commences on page 610 of volume 2.
Page 610 of the same bundle, right?
Indeed, Chair, and if that can be a bundle of documents described as Annexure VV 3.5.
Is it separate documents that stand alone?
It's a bundle of documents from which we're going to put several documents to Mr. Makhubo in today's session, Chair. Like with Mr. Ramosebudi yesterday, it's a bundle of documents collected by the Commission in due course. They will all be proven by the Commission.
Okay, you want us to mark the first one, and then others will be marked with point something up to the end?
Indeed, Chair. If we could,
but we'll use the page number, pagination.
Indeed.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Do you want me to just mark the first one, and then we'll say point 1 or whatever, and then the rest will be done later?
Indeed, Chair. Unfortunately, it's going to be 0.606 or whatever.
Yes.
But yes, please, Chair.
Okay, all right. WV stands, remains, WV.
Double V remains, yes, Chair.
And then it will be after WV, what will it be?
3.5.
3.5.
And Chair, because there's going to be pagination, that bundle in fact runs to the end of bundle 2 and through the whole of bundle 3.
Yeah.
Might I suggest that we create a new annexure for bundle 3 so we don't end up with duplicate page numbers?
I agree, yeah, I agree.
And that would then be VV 3.6.
Okay, no, that's fine. Okay, so I've marked it as exhibit WV 3.5 at page 610.
Thank you, Chair.
Yeah. And then don't forget to let Mr. Makhubo's legal team place themselves on record.
Thank you. Maybe if Mr. Mpacha can do that now.
Yeah, maybe you can do it from there, yeah.
Thank you, Chair. It's Advocate Moses Mpacha, SC, briefed by Majanga Incorporated. And Chair, just as a matter of also explaining something, in the founding affidavit, the first affidavit, you will note that is there a paragraph which is titled...
Tell me the page first.
Page VV3 MGM 016.
Oh, use the black numbers on the top left corner of the page.
Oh, I don't have...
You don't have?
Yes, but it's just...
okay, tell me the red one, it's fine. Tell me the red page number.
VV3 MGM 016.
016. Okay, I just want to get... Mr. Chaskalson, are you able to give me the black number?
It would be 405, Chair. But I think for Mr. Mpacha's benefit, we need to get him a bundle with the correct pagination. Otherwise, he's not going to be able to follow.
He won't be able to find the right documents.
Can we just attend to that now, Chair?
Yes.
Apparently, there is a bundle here.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. 405, you said.
Yes, Chair.
Yes, I've found it.
Yes, Chair. We
Yes.
have consulted with our client and he does not want to deal with those issues.
Yes.
Because they are legal arguments in any way.
Oh, okay, okay.
And I
okay.
think
Yeah,
the
just
request,
to save time.
request for a ruling, I don't think it's competent because there's no application.
Yes,
So we
okay.
won't be dealing with that.
Okay, okay.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Mr. Chaskason?
Thank you, Chair. Then we're ready to commence. And we'll need Mr. Makhubo to be sworn in, but I understood that possibly before Mr. Makhubo is sworn in, he wanted to make a statement to the Commission.
I think let him be sworn in and let's get that part out of the way, and then he can, I will allow him to make some remarks or statements after that, unless there is a particular reason why the sequence should be different. There's no reason. Okay. Please administer the oath of affirmation first.
Please state your full names for the record.
Moloantoa Geoffrey Makhubo.
Do you have any objections to taking the prescribed oath?
No.
Do you consider the oath to be binding on your conscience?
Yes.
Do you swear that the evidence will give will be the truth, the whole truth and nothing else but the truth? If so, please raise your right hand and say, "So help me God."
So help me God.
Good morning, Mr. Makhubo,
Good morning, Chairperson.
and thank you
Justice.
for availing yourself to come and assist the Commission. Thank you. I understand that you would like to take about 5 minutes to say something before Mr. Chaskason leads your evidence.
Yes, Chair.
I give you that chance now.
Thank you very much, Deputy Chief Justice, and good morning to all. It's along the same lines, Chairperson, that we would like to appreciate the opportunity to appear before the Commission and give evidence and assist the Commission wherever we can, and to say that on the record that we support fully the work of the Commission. Any reference to delays in submission of documents or comments on difficulties of accessing documents were not deliberate. Some of the issues occurred between 10 and 15 years ago. So we wanted to put on record that we're here to answer questions, clear things that are on the public discourse. And of course, there are, I'm in the political space, there will be political issues, but I'm here to assist the Commission where possible. You know, I acknowledge that I'm duty bound to come and assist the Commission by the position I hold, even though the issues that are being referred to, I precede my time in government and of course being the executive mayor, but I understand that the current role brings attention to the matters and actually elevates the matters to be matters of public importance, even though they happened prior to me holding this position. So we just wanted to put that, that we are fully behind the Commission and will support its work. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Makhubo. We appreciate that. Thank you. Mr. Chaskason.
Thank you, Chair. Mr. Makhubo, if we can possibly begin by simply confirming the affidavit and the statement that you've submitted to the Commission. If I can ask you first to go to page 424 of that file 2 and just confirm that that is your signature on page 424 at the end of the affidavit.
He knows that he must focus on the black numbers, Mr. Chaskason.
You don't have files. Does it say 2 or 3? 3. I beg your pardon. Let me get a file 2 to you.
Which page is that?
424.
424.
Any reference to page numbers, Mr. Makhubo, will be a reference to the black numbers at the top left corner of each page. You can disregard the red numbers. unless Mr. Chairperson specifically refers to red numbers.
Yes, it is my signature.
And that is a signature which you signed deposing to the affidavit that starts at page 404.
Yes, those are my initials. I can confirm that.
Thank you. Chair, can we ask that that affidavit now be admitted as VV 3.3?
The affidavit of Mr. Moloantoa Geoffrey Makhubo, starting at page 404, is admitted as Exhibit WV 3.3.
Thank you, Chair. And then, Mr. Makhubo, in fact, yesterday, on the 26th of November, your legal team furnished us a supplementary statement, which you'll find at just after page 606. It's numbered 606.1.2.3.
Found it.
And if I can ask you just to confirm that that is, in fact, on page 11, that's your signature again at the foot of the, and I've been calling it a statement. I see, in fact, it's an affidavit.
You said page 11, you mean 606.11, Mr.
606.11,
Yeah.
indeed, Chair. And then can I ask you just to confirm the correctness of that statement? Sorry, before you confirm the correctness, can I take you just to page 6, because I think there may be an error on 606.6 in paragraph 20. I think, I don't want to put words into your mouth, but I think there's a reference to TSS that should be a reference to CCMA. So in paragraph 20, you say, I've indicated in my founding affidavit that Moloantoa Holdings was established together with Mr. Obakeng Chikani to pursue investment deals. The TSS was the only deal concluded by Moloantoa Holdings as per the teaming agreement referred to in paragraph 6.2 of the EOH submission to state capture. Is the reference to TSS correct?
Yes, it is.
It is correct. I apologize. Then can I ask you to confirm the correctness of this statement? This affidavit, sorry.
It is correct.
Thank you. And Chair, can that then be admitted as double V 3.4?
The affidavit of Mr. Moloantoa Geoffrey Makhubo, starting at page 606.1, is admitted as Exhibit WV 3.4.
Then, Mr. Makhubo, before we get into the details of your statements, there is one issue that I'd like to canvass with you in advance, because it's an issue that is of particular importance to the Commission, and I've indicated to your Council, and I want to put it on record here, that I am genuinely interested in your views as I would hope the Commission, as someone who has been Treasurer General of a region on this topic. And I want to just make an undertaking to you that you must speak completely freely, and I will not refer to any of your answers in this section of your testimony at any other point in your testimony. I'm genuinely looking for the benefit of your views. I'm not talking about facts here. We're looking for views and possible advice. And the issue that I want to raise with you in this context is relating to political party funding, which is why your experience as a Treasurer General is so important. And in your second statement, you make a point which I think is a a very good point in paragraph 26 of that second statement, page 606.8. And there you say, as indicated in my founding affidavit, I was elected as the treasurer of the ANC Johannesburg Region. Currently, I'm acting as the chairperson. As a member of the ANC, I'm expected to make contributions towards the movement at all material times. However, as a treasurer, I have the obligation to raise money and ensure that the financial needs and obligations of the ANC in my region are met. These financial obligations are not only limited to the operational monthly costs, but many other costs that are related to day-to-day requests by ordinary members and branches. Some would refer to financial assistance for the burial of members. I must apologize. I'm taking you to the wrong paragraph. There is there is a passage in your affidavit where you speak to the fact that the ANC needs donations to fund itself in certain respects, and that the donations that it draws are primarily from black business people because...
it might be paragraph 31, Mr. Chairperson.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you very much. Let me not put words into your mouth, Mr. Makhubo. The Chair has directed me to the correct paragraph. Insofar as the funding of political parties are concerned, sadly the regional offices are not receiving any financial assistance like the national office from the local municipality. This creates a serious financial burden on the financial needs of regional offices. Further, it's not unusual for the treasurer of the ANC to make requests for donations from individuals and from mostly black-owned companies that are sympathetic to the ANC. Most of these black companies do not receive any work or tenders from the private sector, but from the public sector. It's therefore not unusual that these companies would be enabled to contribute or donate monies to the ANC from funds derived from award of tenders. Now, I want to ask you some questions in that regard, and I want to repeat that I'm not going to refer to your answers later in this cross-examination. Can you give us an indication of what the annual budget of your region was when you were Treasurer General?
Firstly, I was called a regional treasurer, not the Treasurer General. The ANC only has one Treasurer General, who's based at head office. And because we are a unitary structure, the fundraising efforts, the funding policies would be a national competency. And the Treasurer General would be best placed to speak on the funding of the ANC generally as an organization. However, as it relates to my responsibilities as a regional treasurer of the ANC, the budget would differ from year to year, depending on the activities on that year. So we would normally fund the operational expenses of the region on a month-to-month basis, but there will be peaks when there's a conference, when there are elections, as we mobilize for members to attend certain events like January 8 events, etc., etc. So ordinarily we would sit and forecast at the beginning of the year: is there a youth league conference? Is there a women's league conference? Is Mkonto or military veterans conference sitting? Veterans League, is it sitting? COSA, SASCO, how do we help them? So it's never a constant amount. It depends on the activities planned for that particular year. And then, of course, there'll be different campaigns that need to be funded. And you wouldn't know from the statement of the president at the beginning of the year, then you'd know what the campaigns would be of that year and what it is that would fund.
But just roughly, I mean, are you able to give us a sort of just an approximate figure of, say, what was your last year as treasurer, as I understand it, was end of 2018. Do you have a sense of what the budget for the region was or for that year?
I must think, because normally we give a report for 3 years. And I think because there would have been elections and Congress, there would anything between 30 and 50 million.
I suspect it would have been more than that because we've seen a letter just dealing with elections that talks about 50 million.
Yes, these were the 2016 elections, very, very difficult. And of course, the prices and cost increase, and the sort of activities, the targeted audiences, the sorts of events that were planned were very, very different from the past elections. But for now, you're correct. I remember vividly asking for that amount of money, and it was not the only money we were trying to source, but it was specifically for that election. I thought you were asking me what's on average the.
Let me tell you where I'm.
Just one. Although he is asking the questions, Mr. Makhubo, you are telling me
Okay.
the story.
Okay, Chairperson, my
So
apologies.
remember, so for me to hear you properly, it's better if,
Okay.
as you give the answers, you face this side.
Okay, Chairperson.
All right.
I'm interested in getting a sense of a complete budget, including elections, including ad hoc campaigns. How much would it cost to run a political party on the scale of the ANC in this region over each of those years? And we're not going to hold you to that at all, but we just want to get a sense of it because
Yeah,
there
I
are
would
some.
really have to go back to my records. You know, I was a treasurer for a very long time, so things have changed along the way. Chairperson, I was first elected in 2008, so we'd have seen different, the ANC itself changing, challenges being different, number of votes increasing. So I really don't want to speculate as we speak here.
Well, can I then ask a separate question? How much of that budget is funded from membership dues and how much is funded from donations? Again, I'm not going to asking for anything exact, but just a broad estimate.
You know, there was an article by the Treasurer General in the Sunday Times a few weeks ago who said nationally the ANC gets about 75% to 80% from private donations. We pay 20 rands a year as a member. So if you have 50,000 members, it really can't sustain even 1 month. So majority of our funding in Johannesburg would come from private donations.
You see that, I mean, that's what I would have imagined. And it does seem to me that there is a potential problem there because the membership to whom the organization should be accountable are, in financial terms, nothing like the most important constituency in terms of funding the organization. So that, would you comment on that?
I suppose that's the conference agrees on membership fees, and it's 20 rands per annum.
Sorry to interrupt. I'm not for a minute suggesting the membership fee should be more than 20 rands per annum because I don't think that membership should be that the membership fee should disqualify anyone from being a member. I mean, there's a reality that a large number of members are not going to be able to afford much more than 20 rands as a membership fee. But I still want to go back to my earlier question, which is if you have a low membership fee to give access to everyone, what that means is that membership dues are going to be a relatively small percentage of the money that you need to run the organization.
True, Chairperson, the nature, I think, of political parties, and I'd like to think that all political parties in South Africa would have the same problem of having to go to the private sector to ask for donations. Hence, I think Parliament has been debating this, and there was that political funding bill or act now that's waiting for the President to sign to regulate this political party funding. Over time, I think there have been NGOs and political parties talking about this reliance on the private sector and the potential problems, not the real potential problems it might bring. So that's, I mean, my answer would be that it's been a discussion at the moment. Even in Parliament, I think they have discussed, amongst political parties themselves, there would have been 1 or 2 political parties who were against it, but I think it was passed through, and with the ANC supporting it, that there should be some regulation of political party funding. It's only national. Local government council does not fund any political party. I don't think the province funds any political party, so I'm unsure if how that will be able to cover the entirety of the needs of all political parties, registered political parties, funding throughout the country. So I don't know what the future will bring.
And while we're on donations, that point that you make at paragraph 31 is I think, a particularly important point. I mean, we live in a profoundly unequal society, and we still carry a massive legacy from our apartheid past. And so the bulk of the membership and supporters of the ANC do not have large amounts of money. It's not just the ANC, it's also other parties representing black South Africans. And you make the point here that black-owned companies generally do not receive substantial work from the private sector, but are dependent on the public sector. Would you say, I mean, that's your point, not mine, but I mean, you presumably, you've made it, you must accept it. What I want to put to you is that if there is a model that depends on corporate donations for political party funding in a society like ours, where the bulk of the population is still very, very poor, and where black companies, because of our legacy, our history, with very few exceptions, are dependent on public sector contracts for big contracts. Is there not a risk that because of our model of political party funding, that issues of procurement and party political funding may, I don't want to suggest that they do get confused, but is there not the risk that it can look like procurement is being directed for political party funding purposes?
Chairperson, I suppose when you say there's a risk, there's always a risk. Let me make an example. A mining entity would still need government for licenses and all that. So they don't really procure from government directly, but they need regulatory environment, they need a particular policy framework, they need a license for carrying on with their mining operations. So in any normal environment, that risk would exist as well, that whoever is in charge at that point would be lobbied for a particular type of policy.
Indeed.
But it's not directly linked to procurement.
Your point is it's broader than procurement.
So I'm saying that business generally, whether buying from the state or private sector, would need a particular policy framework, would need a certain legal framework. I mean, there's a cry from business about labor laws and say they are not encouraging investment and all that. So there's a lobby from business, whether it's procuring from private sector or not, or it's in the private, from the public sector, or it's in the private sector. So I'm saying the risk for me is throughout, that government by its very nature is needed for regulatory environment and procurement. Now, when you say there's a risk of a direct link between procuring from the state and supporting, I can say if we do you take a procurement spend list of any government department, and you see probably how much goes to previously white-owned companies and previously, you'll be shocked.
I wouldn't be shocked. I've been looking at those lists for a long time to see idea. Your point is perfectly valid.
The direct link, I think for me, yes, it remains a risk, but I don't think that there's causality, there's cause and effect there.
Well, let me turn it around, because you're talking about regulatory frameworks as well as procurement. My real point, the real point I want to put to you and get your comment on is, do you not think that if we could move away from a model of political party funding that depended on corporate donations for the most part, we could think of a different model. The potential for party policy to be influenced by big corporations, be they black or white, would be much less.
In an ideal world, I think that it will be slightly different. The situation would be completely different, or slightly different, let me say. I still believe that for their survival, business generally, that economics, politics, nexus, somehow, and it's worldwide. It's not only in South Africa, Chairperson. It's actually worldwide. If you look at models in the Western Europe, in the US, in fact, in the US, it's actually quite worse that when it's the Republicans, you know that there'll be this lobby of the Republicans for this policy. So I think it's a debate generally. The multilateral organizations must be discussing this. How do you lessen the business influence? Although you need economics to run, you need the economy to grow, and of course they need politics to be stable. They need democracy to thrive. So they've got an interest in the stability of the country. Business got interest in the stability of the country. It's got interest in the stability of our polity. The body politic must be stable, and I think in doing so, some of them would say, I support democracy. I know companies that would say, I'm funding every political party that's in parliament in proportion to their representation, because they are interested in a stable democracy. And I still think they must have a hand in stabilizing our democracy.
Can I put a notion to you, and I just want your comments. What about a system of party political financing that was in large parts based on central government grants dispensed according to audited membership? So, you work out what a party needs to run on an efficient basis, and you say, if a party of 2 million people nationwide would need this budget, per member, central government will grant, and and donations from the private sector will not be allowed. We'll cut that off.
Yes, if possible, that the fiscus can absorb that and will be able to fund. I think in the last elections we had 60 or so, 70 registered parties, and there were others that could not even register because they didn't have the funds, but they wanted to contest. I mean, if you look at the IEC portal, I don't know how many parties have registered with the IEC, but they did not register for those elections. If the fiscus is big enough to carry that, and that is enough for political parties to run, it will be disadvantageous for smaller parties, though, because they'll get a smaller proportion. And I suppose that's what the political parties funding bill is trying to address. That very part that in fact, it's very specific that when you fund a political party over a certain amount, you must disclose it. Everyone must know. So it cannot happen in the dark, so to say. It cannot happen in secret. But anything below that amount, if a spaza shop in Rockville, Soweto funds a branch, 10,000 rands for the activity, there's no duty to declare. And I think those thresholds for me are quite important that we set. I believe in a hybrid. I think the state must play a role. I still think that business must play a role in funding political parties, regulated maybe, but I think the hybrid is quite important.
You see, if state funding is dispensed according to audited membership, I mean, there remains a question of whether we would have the machinery to do that. But if it was, parties would then become much more accountable to their members. When a member leaves the ANC for the EFF, the grant for that member goes to the EFF as well. What's your comment to that?
See, it's an ideal situation. I think that the issue of accountability, Chairperson, is quite important, irrespective of where the funds come from and how they are distributed and allocated. The issue of accountability to firstly your members and secondly to the public is quite important, which is why I think my organization congresses are beamed live and the media is invited and we do account to the public. You even find our reports, including strategy and tactics, where, you know, we plan our strategy, but we make it public. So I think accountability for me is key and central. So whether you use funds to try and keep a member from jumping ship, I don't know. I think when your values do not reconcile to the values of the organization, you are free to leave. Shouldn't be based on that you go and recruit all and sundry so that you can get more money. People must agree to your values. People must want to be a member of that organization. They must live the principles and values of that organization. It must not be based on funding. I don't think it's proper. Even though the proportion of the funds you get from political party funding would be based on your representation in parliament, which is a translation of the proportion of the votes you got during the last general elections.
Well, that's one model, based on your electoral support. Another might be based on audited membership. So the one would really remunerate parties in proportion to their electoral support. The other would remunerate them in proportion to their membership, which would then give the membership more power within the party.
Yeah, maybe Chairperson, we should take this and put in a discussion document in all political parties and then say it's probably a model to promote accountability to members. I think that accountability is more to society than there is to your own members. Yes, you must account to members. As a treasurer in the conference, I account to members through delegates, but we have to account to the public, especially if public funds are used. We really need some form of reports to Treasury, reports to Parliament, reports to Council, reports to the legislature, in order to account to the public. So that's what the model might work. It might be cumbersome. Every time a member joins, there must be a portal so that it can be audited. You don't go to a graveyard and take names of and date of births of people and, you know, for ghost memberships. So it needs to be a robust system for it to work. Maybe South Africa should be the first to experiment with it.
Well, I mean, it's not really my role to to put these out. So maybe we should get to the questioning. But I would welcome a public conversation around that, because I do think that what we have seen in this commission is that the link between political party funding and private donors can be abused in certain circumstances.
Okay.
Can I then start the questioning, which is now going to be less discursive and more focused on very specific facts? You furnished a full statement to the Commission. The Commission was really interested in a range of topics, the relationship, primarily the relationship between your a close corporation called Moloantoa Consulting, which was a corporation in which you held a 67% interest, and companies within the EOH group and companies within the regiments group, and the relationship between those companies and the city of Johannesburg. You furnished these two affidavits to us. You've also made a series of public statements on these issues, because there have been issues that have been canvassed publicly. And I'd like to take you to those statements and just to clarify that you stand by what you said in those statements. So if I can ask you to go to, it's in file 2, page 947. Some time ago, I think it was in 2018, there were articles published by Amabungani raising questions about Moloantoa Consulting and regiments. And at page 947, you issued a response, you were given a right to reply, and you issued a response at page 947. Can I ask you to look at that and just confirm to me that you stand by the contents of what you said in that statement?
Yes, in large part, except that we should have said that for some reason, which is what I said in my affidavit, that for some reason, the Moloantoa Consulting was not processed.
Sorry, your resignation from Moloantoa Consulting was not processed.
Consulting as a holding member, yeah. But as an executive, I did, yeah.
So, sorry, as a holding member, your resignation wasn't processed. As an executive member, I mean, it's a closed corporation, not a company.
Yes.
So you ceased having an executive role in Moloantoa Consulting,
Yes.
and your interest as a member ought to have been. Are you saying you gave up your interest as a member?
Yes, the issue there was that we ceased to be a member, but it was not processed, and then it carried on.
So the CRPC continued to reflect you as a member, whereas it shouldn't have.
Well, the thing was not lodged.
Let's not blame the CRPC. Administratively, within Moloantoa, your withdrawal as a member was not
processed. Yes.
I think that's a point that you make because there were, in fact, 4 statements that you issued because it was a running story. Can I ask you to go to page 949, where there was a second statement? And again, can I ask you to take a look at that second statement and confirm that you stand by its contents?
It will be exactly the same response that I gave in the first time.
Thanks. Subject to the qualification that
Yes.
you resigned your membership interest,
Yes.
but that wasn't processed. You stand by that. There's then a third statement at page 951. And there, in fact, you make the point about your resignation at the foot of page 952. Can I ask you just to read the whole of that third statement and again confirm that you stand by it?
Yes, in my reply to questions from Mpungani, I kept the same theme.
Yes.
And I still, yes.
Yes, I'm not suggesting there's any inconsistency in your replies. I just want you to confirm that
Yes,
they are
yes.
correct.
Remember, it was, these were questions from the newspaper
Yes.
to myself.
Yes.
And I was answering them in the manner that I was answering them for reasons personal to myself as well.
Yes.
So yes,
But,
subject to
but
that
there's nothing that you
qualification.
want to correct in there. There's nothing that was said there that was incorrect.
No, I'm just saying subject to that qualification. Yes, the statement to Mapungani was, that I made was correct.
Yes. In fact, in the third, if I understand you correctly, in this third statement, you don't need that qualification because at the foot of what is page 952, you say, as stated previously, I tendered my resignation as a member of Moloantoa Consulting and other business interests. The point about the resignation not being processed is not in the statement. I'm sorry. I take that back. There's a very short fourth statement, again answering specific questions at page 954. There's almost nothing said there, but can I get your confirmation that you stand by what you said there?
Yes.
My learned junior makes the point that you and I are having a conversation, we know what we're talking about, but the world outside doesn't. In due course, I'm going to ask you to explain your relationship with Moloantoa and the relationship between Moloantoa and regiments and the EOH relationship to the extent that there was one. But for now, I just want to clarify what potential points of dispute are and what aren't. So before we get into the details of your of the relationship between Moloantoa and regiments, can I ask you also to look at a series of schedules that have been prepared from bank transactions by the Commission? They start at page 985 of that file.
You say
985. And the first schedule on page 985 is a schedule of income that flowed from either regiment's fund managers or regiment's capital into Moloantoa Consulting. You've had this document for some time. I just want to know if there's anything on there that you want to dispute. I'm not asking you to confirm the correctness of that. The bank statements in due course will be, in fact, the bank statements are in this bundle, but are there any items here that you would like to correct?
I must confess, Chairperson, it's correct that we've had the document since last week, but I had not ticked each figure cross-referencing to the bank statement.
Applied your mind.
I've not gone through each figure. Yes, I did see the bank statements, but I was looking at the substance of what was being said.
Okay.
Yeah.
But for present purposes, you're not disputing the contents here. I'm not asking you to admit them, but you're not disputing them.
I have no reason to dispute them. As I said, I have not particularly looked at whether they are correct or not, but they look correct.
And what that schedule shows that over the period 2008 through to 2016, the total amount received by Moloantoa from regiments was 35,710,919. I'm not asking you to admit that figure, but for present purpose, I just want to clarify that you're not actively disputing it.
Chairperson, I'm not sure what, don't dispute, verify,
Yes. No,
what the difference is.
I think from what you have said, the position is, as things stand, you don't have a reason to dispute these, but you reserve your right because you have not had, you didn't go through item by item. You would like to be able to dispute if later on you think you have got grounds to dispute. Is that right?
That's fine, yes.
Yes. Okay.
Thank you, Chair. On the same basis, can we go to the table on page 988, which refers to transfers from Moloantoa into your account over the period 2011 to 2014. I want to emphasize it's 2011 to 2014 because there is a fuller schedule later that goes past 2014. Again, reserving your rights at a later stage to dispute if you find errors. At present, are you in a position to dispute that this schedule accurately reflects those transfers?
No, subject to that qualification.
Absolutely. I think we must just work on the basis that you know, if you come back later, if you pick up an error later, you're always welcome to make that correction. And so let's run, and that table reflects payments from Moloantoa to your personal account over this period 2011 to 2014 of 4,270,000.
Yeah.
Can I then go to page 989? And this table reflects payments from Moloantoa to the ANC and I'm going to say alliance organizations, because I see, for instance, there's a donation to COSAS on one of the line items. Again, are you in a position, reserving your rights to dispute later, would you accept provisionally accept the correctness of this schedule?
As I say, subject to,
Yes, I'm not suggesting.
I thought it's more, but yeah, subject to, but yeah.
And the amount of those donations is 654,564. Then the next, over the page, one sees a table.
Is that at 990?
990, that is correct, Chair. There are several tables. The first table is a table of cash deposits into Moloantoa over the period 2009 to 2019. And that reflects a total of 592,000 over that period. Again, are you in a position to dispute, reserving your rights to do so at a later stage, are you presently in a position to dispute any of these, the records on that table?
No, I can't even remember them, but yeah.
The next two tables are relate to TSS management services and AXOLV. I'm not going to be dealing with them today, so I'm not going to ask you to respond there. If we do get back to them, you'll have an opportunity then. Likewise, if we go over the page to page 991, there's a table involving Patrick Makhubo and a table involving Xylec. Again, I'm not going to ask you to respond to those. But can I then ask you to turn to the next file, bundle 3, and go to page 847.
Okay. 800?
847 in bundle 3. And Chair, I'm not sure if you have 847.
Yes, I do, thank you.
And on page 847, there is a table that has the heading Annexure A. And this is a table that looks at transfers into Moloantoa from regiments, fund managers, or regiments' capital, and transactions out of Moloantoa within a period of, I think it was 10 days after the transfers in from regiments' capital. Again, or regiments' fund managers. Are you at present in a position to dispute any of the entries on this table?
No, I'm unable to, I can't dispute because I have not gone through the details.
Yes. It's a table that runs from 2011 to February 2016. It's a period 2011 to 2016. What it shows is in that period, the total inflows from regiments' capital and regiments' fund managers were 18,871,570. And the outflows that are recorded on the table are 130,000 with the reference ANC donation. Amounts that are cashed is an aggregate amount of 850,000, and amounts that are transferred into your personal accounts are 5,917,183. Can we then go to, we can ignore Annexure B because again that deals with Xylec, Mr. Makhubo and related organizations with which we're not going to be concerned today. But Annexure C is another schedule that I want to take you to. That is an extract of all transfers from Moloantoa from the two accounts of Moloantoa into your personal accounts. It goes down from 859 to 850, and it runs from 2011 through to 2020. Can I ask again if there's anything on this table that you're presently in a position to dispute?
I have not even looked at the schedule, but I have no reason not to believe, but...
If at a later stage you identify errors, please feel free to come back to us.
Okay.
What that shows that in the period from November 2011 to January 2020, a total amount of 7,096,000 rands 994 moved out of Moloantoa into your account, your personal account. I think at this point it probably makes sense to come to the relationship between Moloantoa and regiment's fund managers. And can you briefly tell the Chair how Moloantoa and regiment's fund managers came to work together?
Chairperson, as I say in my affidavit and in the statements that the Commission has referred me to confirm being asked from Mama Bongani, Moloantoa Consulting effectively started in 97, but I joined it in 98, established it from scratch in the space of finance, accounting, and 6 years later, we came together with a person I got to know much earlier in the 80s, the executive chairperson of Regiment's Capital, and I do say it in my affidavit, Mr. Litanyonya, who told me that they are moving into this space and we need to explore opportunities together. He's putting together a team of highly skilled individuals in the fund management side, stockbroking, that type of a business, which is something that I thought I wanted to explore and expand over because I only had skills in one component thereof. And that was late 2004, early 2005 when we had this conversation. And and we, of course, started to look at opportunities, especially in the public sector. And when the RFP initially, request for from RFI, it was released by the city, then, for your thoughts on a debt redemption fund came through. Again, there was a response. This is our thinking. These are the different types of funds, passive, active funds, and how then do you deal with them? And later on, an RFP was released by the city. We did our bit in contributing to the responses, but as a small company with not enough balance sheet to deal with the item, we came together. It was evaluated, and I think it was awarded. We thought we didn't have the necessary some qualifying papers, and we thought it shouldn't be part of the main tender. They got one company to deal with the administration to be part of the main tender. That will still play our role. So when it was awarded, we started talking, but we could not finalize the memorandum of agreement because the pricing was not clear. And that's how we came together. And then in 2005 late, we could not meet to sign the memorandum, and early in January 2006, right at the big kickoff of the fund itself, we came together. So that's, and it's detailed in my affidavit, what we did.
Thank you. And you talk about the memorandum of agreement. Can I ask you to go to page 712 of volume 2 and just confirm that that was in fact the memorandum of agreement? As 712, but it's volume 2. I'm not sure if that's volume 2 or 3.
That's volume 3.
And at 712, there is no memorandum on mine, Mr. Chairperson. On bundle 3, or is it bundle 2 we should look at?
Bundle 2, Chair, sorry.
Okay.
Yes.
So that is the memorandum of agreement between you and Regiment's fund managers. And if you go down to page 714, clause 2.2, the obligations of Moloantoa are set out under this contract.
Mr. Chairperson, maybe let's take the tea break now, then you can go into more issues. I realize it's
Sorry,
time
Chair,
for the
I've
tea
run late.
break. Let's take the tea break. It's about 19 minutes past 11. We'll resume at 25 to 12. We adjourn. Okay, let's continue.
Thank you, Chair. Mr. Makhubo, can I ask you to go to clause 2.2 of that agreement at page 714 of bundle 2?
Yes, I'm there.
And does that clause accurately describe the obligations that Moloantoa had in terms of its agreement with regiment fund managers in relation to this sinking fund tender?
This was what we agreed on, Chairperson.
Well, Mr. Chairperson, might be helpful for either you or Mr. Makhubo to just read that paragraph so the people who are watching can understand and follow. Yeah.
Yes, Chair. So it states the following, and it's setting out the obligations. Well, let's maybe start the previous page. 2.1 says the respective roles and responsibilities of the parties in terms of this MOA are as detailed below. 2.2, it says Moloantoa Consulting. Review and obtain a detailed understanding of the contents of the RFP and the disclosed information. So that would be the RFP for the sinking fund contract and the information disclosed in relation thereto. Is that correct?
Yes, that's accurate. The initial things that we did in 2005, those are in 2006, yeah.
Identify and perform needs analysis of COJ in terms of the RFP. And I presume that would be done in advance of submission of the tender because you're going to identify the needs so that your tender can match those needs. Your bid can match those
Yes,
needs.
between the RFI and the RFQ, yes, that's right.
Review and advise on the design of the sinking fund technical proposal to ensure that the needs of the COJ as outlined in the RFP are met. And again, that must be before submission of the bid because you're trying to refine a technical proposal to try to win a bid.
Yes, Mr. Chairperson.
Review bid documentation and advise on relevant aspects as considered appropriate. Again, as I understand that would be part of putting together the final bid, refining the final bid. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yeah.
Review the contents of presentations that may need to be prepared for COJ and advise on relevant aspects as considered appropriate. Are those presentations in the course of the bid or in implementation if you win the bid?
Well, it's if the presentation is called to come and clarify your bid and basically in the setup and all that.
Sorry, I didn't hear your second part of the answer.
No, I'm just saying in the setup if the client would want to know what the structure, the functionality, because this was the first of its kind in that type of an active fund.
Yes. And 2.2.6, if considered relevant, make presentations jointly with Regiment's Capital to COJ as may be required. Is that again presentations to a bid adjudication committee or a bid evaluation committee?
Yeah, and post, yes.
And post?
Yes. If relevant. That's why it says where may be required, whenever they call you for a presentation.
Before or after award of the bid?
Say again?
Before or after or both? Award of the
It
bid.
would have been both, but in this case, it would have been before.
So you didn't make presentations after award of the bid?
No.
And then
In
2.
fact, we didn't do it jointly because they said we're relevant.
I see.
Yes.
Maintain on an ongoing basis all strategic relationships with COJ before, during, and after completion of fund management mandate for the mutual benefit of the parties. And what did that contemplate?
Well, the way we saw it was that we need to, at a strategic level, ensure that we understand the client, we understand their needs, we try and grow the fund, we know the future needs or funding needs, infrastructure needs, et cetera, and just generally know the client.
And would it be fair to say that this was the only obligation that carried on after the successful award of the bid, that had obligations that you performed after award of the bid?
Well, 6 and 7, 5, 6 and 7 were meant to when considered when considered appropriate, 5, 6 and 7 would have been the ones that would have had to be active on.
But earlier you said there weren't any presentations,
Yes.
so 5 and 6 didn't, whereas there may have been an obligation, it wasn't one that you ever performed after the bid.
Yes, there was no presentation required, yeah, at that time. Yes.
But this maintenance of strategic relationships, was that something that you did do after the bid?
Well, actively, yes, I watched the city, what was going on. I got interested in the funding patterns of the city, yes.
Thank you. And what were the payment arrangements in terms of this contract?
Well, the first, it says there on paragraph 3, it's a structuring fee. And of course, there's a management fee which gets split, and the outperformance fee. So the bulk of the fees would come from the outperformance fees that we negotiated upfront with regiments. But the first two, you'd know how much they are because you'd know funds under management. But outperformance fee, which is the bulk of the fees, are known, are risk-based and unknown. That's how this fund is structured, or was structured.
So the fee structure presupposes a successful bid. If you succeed, you then get fees. If you don't succeed, you don't get fees.
Yes, the 3.3, which is the outperformance fees, presupposes that what the city gives you as a benchmark, as a watermark, you'll be able to outperform. So you'll perform up to what they expect as a city.
Sorry, Mr. Makhubo, I think we might be talking past each other because I'm not at this stage talking about the fee structure in the ultimate regiment's contract with the city. I'll get there. But now I'm talking about your arrangement with regiments.
It depended on their performance, yes.
Well, no, it's not just the outperformance, even the management fee. If you don't win the bid, you get nothing from regiments.
Yes, if you don't win, yes, it presupposed on winning the bid, yeah.
So the structure of your, well, let's start. You did win the bid, that's correct, is it not? This consortium won the bid.
Yes.
And the arrangement that the consortium had with the city was that the city would pay the consortium a monthly, I think it was a monthly fund management fee, which would be determined by assets under management. A fixed percentage of assets under management would be your fee. That would be the fund management fee. Is that correct?
Yes, it's normal in the industry.
Yes. No, I'm not suggesting it isn't.
Every fund manager gets a fund management fee.
A percentage of funds under management. And then there was the outperformance fee, and as I understand that, there were certain benchmarks or targets that were set, and if the fund performed better than those targets, a certain percentage of the margin above the target would be paid to the consortium. Is that correct?
That's correct. If you outperform the benchmark, there'll be a split, the city taking like 75% of the outperformance, of that proportion.
Yes.
Yes.
So 25% of the over-target achievement goes to the fund managers, 75% stays with the city.
That's correct.
And if you don't beat the target, you get nothing.
Yes, if you don't meet the target, or if you perform at target, you get nothing.
Yes. Can I ask how the outperformance fee was structured? Was it structured on a quarterly basis?
Yes, the way the evaluation would happen on a quarterly basis. Performance over a quarter, and there would be the risk department of the city sitting and evaluating together with the consortium, and then they would agree, looking at the scripts and all that. Yes, just quarterly.
And so what you would do is you would look at the asset value at the start of the quarter, the total asset value at the start of the quarter, the total asset value at the end of the quarter, and if it had increased above a certain target percentage, you would look at that margin above the target percentage and turn it into a number, and 25% would go to the consortium, 75% would stay with the city. Is that correct?
Simply, yes, but it's much more complex like that. This is an asset liability balance. So remember, even the liabilities themselves
Yeah,
have got
yeah,
movement.
call it net assets.
So the assets themselves would have movement. So you look at the net movements,
Yes.
and you see the value of the fund would have increased or not, and then at that point, that's when you determine if the value of the fund has not increased by more than the benchmark. Then you don't
Sorry,
get
it's just talking, assets was the wrong term. It's net value of the fund.
net value because it's an asset liability match.
Yes. Can I ask this? Assuming there's a market crash and the value of the fund drops by 30% because there's a market crash, obviously you won't get an outperformance fee. Is that correct? Well, you won't get an outperformance fee because the value will go down.
The outperformance would be the fund performing at above the watermark or the benchmark given by the city. So there's an opening balance. This is performance of this quarter, JIBA plus whatever.
Yes.
And then anything over and above that. So anything less than that watermark, that benchmark, you get nothing.
But after the crash, you're now 30% lower than you were in the previous quarter. Is the benchmark for the next quarter that 30% lower figure, or is there a structured benchmark that says, we'll look at what would have happened on the assumption that you didn't lose anything this month?
Suppose later in the evaluating the fund, I think there was advice from an auditing firm that dealt with exactly that, because it was not part of the contract to say in future you must look at capital erosion. That didn't happen, by the way. There was no capital erosion, at least till that time. So you must look at that crash, which will not only deal with the returns, but will deal with the capital invested. If it's a 30% crash in the market, then how do you then have a lower base? But what happens to what you've lost in between?
Exactly, but this original contract didn't provide for that.
No.
So if there was a 30% loss one quarter, and then the market readjusted and went back to where with a gain, so that over the 2 quarters it was net zero, you would still get your outperformance on the 30%.
Well,
gain
it
in the
didn't
second
happen, but that's how the structure. That's why later on we said, how do you claw? What is the clawback between what you've lost and where the base was before?
Yes. And these amounts that we're talking about are amounts that get paid to the consortium. What this agreement says, within the consortium, those amounts are split 90% regiments, 10% Moloantoa.
That's correct.
So Moloantoa is going to get 10% of the management fee, 10% of the outperformance fee over the life of the consortium's contract with Joburg.
Yeah, for 5 years, that was, or the life of the contract, correct.
Right. Now, at the time that that the consortium concluded this contract with Joburg, you weren't in politics. Sorry, not you weren't in politics, you weren't in government. Is that correct?
Yes, I was an ordinary member of the public, and an entrepreneur of 6 years.
Okay, I wouldn't suggest you describe yourself as an ordinary member of the public, because I think you were already treasurer of the region, were you not?
No.
When did you become treasurer of the region?
2008.
2008, and this contract was awarded 2006? 2005?
It's kicked off January 2006.
Kicked off January 2006. And initially it was due to run for 5 years.
Yes.
And terminate at the end of January 2011.
January 2011, yes.
Yes. And you first went into government after the municipal elections, was it May 2011?
That's correct. The elections were in May 2011.
And that chronology has been quite important in explaining your response to allegations of a conflict of interest. Because as I understand your response in your various statements, Maybe we can go to one, maybe page 947.
We stick to
Volume, bundle 2, Chair.
And what's the page number?
947, Chair.
Thank you.
And if I can read what you say there in the, it's a paragraph, about 3 or 4 paragraphs down. There was never a conflict of interest, as the term of Moloantoa's agreement with regiments on the first sinking fund would have lapsed in January 2011, the year I took public office. Moloantoa Consulting didn't continue providing services to regiments on the second contract, as it did not participate in the RFP. We're talking about the second contract there. Further to this, I declared all my private interests upon taking public office as required by law. In addition to this, I subsequently resigned as a member of Moloantoa Consulting and director of all other companies in November 2011. This was in line with my decision to use my skills as a public representative. I also made a commitment to the Mayor of the day and the ANC when I was appointed MMC that I'll unwind my interests and resign all my directorships. Political office bearers are by law precluded from participating in procurement processes, hence I couldn't have been involved in overseeing the renewal of the sinking fund contract. And then there's an issue lower down in relation to colour fields that we don't need to get to. So would it be fair to say, well, let's take a step back. The contract was with regiments, and the city's contract with regiments in Moloantoa was due to terminate in January 2011. Did it terminate in January 2011?
No, it didn't.
Why didn't it?
As far as my recollection goes, the initial tender was out in 2010, and everyone responded. The one that I say I was not part of. And what I was told is that when I inquired was that there was a moratorium placed by the then MEC on big contracts being awarded before elections. That's what therefore, then the extension happened.
And so the existing contract, which was essentially being run by regiments, but in terms of which Moloantoa was getting 10% of the revenue, continued into 2011.
That's correct.
And how much longer did that contract continue?
Well, it's common cause that it continued till 2015 because of an interdict on the second award by a certain company.
Okay. So regiments continued with the fund management contract at the city all the way through to 2015. And through that period, the 10% continued to be paid to Moloantoa.
Yes, there was a contractual obligation on the first contract between Regiments Consulting and Moloantoa Consulting, Regiments Capital and Moloantoa Consulting. So as the month-on-month extensions went, awaiting for the conclusion of the legal challenge, it continued, yes. Yes.
And from May 2011, as I understand it, you were now a councillor in Joburg and also the MMC for Finance.
That's correct.
And this contract would have fallen under your jurisdiction as MMC for Finance, or a political oversight jurisdiction, not a hands-on administrative jurisdiction.
Yes, it was managed by Treasury, which was one of the units in Finance, yes.
And you were politically responsible for overseeing that?
Well, generally, I don't oversee contracts. I didn't oversee contracts, but yes, the would be getting reports on performance and all that. So there have been suggestions that that presented a conflict of interest, but you've answered those suggestions in your statement. And can I put to you how I understand your answer? And if I've got it wrong, please correct me. It seems to me that that there are really two parts to your statement, to your explanation as to why there wasn't a conflict.
The first was that you had resigned from Moloantoa Consulting, although that resignation, for reasons that we don't need to go into at present, wasn't processed. The second part, you say, is that, and in any event, councillors, political officials, don't have involvement in procurement issues, so there wouldn't have been a conflict there. Have I got your explanation correct?
I'll explain the first one, Chairperson. I suppose one of the ways you obviate a conflict is to declare your interests, and two, if there's any decision that affects you at that time, you excuse yourself. That's one. Two is that yes, I would be, code of conduct precludes any political office bearer from participating in any procurement. I think even the MFMA does that. A PTY LTD is quite easier to deal with because you can resign your directorship and keep your shareholders, can remain a shareholder. With a CC, it's not that easy because when you resign your membership, even for, it's like a partnership, you forgo your members' interest, you forgo your share, which is why then you can cease to be a very active member of a CC. And I suspect, I don't know if that would have been the complication. So that's how I explained. And I think what the issue is here for me, Chairperson, my responses here are not, you don't even have the questions to say what were the questions. They just posted the responses because it would have been interesting. But yes, this was my response. 2 questions from Amapungani, and I was answering a newspaper article, Amapungani. Yes.
Well, can I just clarify what you, I mean, one of your answers was, I had resigned, but my resignation wasn't processed, wasn't reflected at CIPC, if I understand you correctly. It didn't get to CIPC to be reflected.
Correct.
Yes. So I presume that what you mean there is that what you intended to do is to divest yourself of your interest as a member in Moloantoa CC.
Quite correct that at the end of the contracts, which basically would have ended around February or so, 2012, I wanted to divest myself, initial intention, but it was never to be.
Sorry, you say it was never to be.
It didn't happen.
Did it not happen because you didn't implement your intention, or because you tried to implement your intention, but somewhere along the line it didn't get to CIPC?
Chairperson, the intention was not implemented, so we continued.
No, but did you subjectively think that you had divested yourself of your interest?
If you look at the emails, I knew that it was not done. Of course, I did ask the person who was dealing with it by email and asked them if it was divested, and they told me stories, and then it did not happen.
Yes, but that relates to how things are reflected at CIPC.
Maybe, Mr. Chaskalson, maybe we should go back to precisely what you did and precisely what your understanding was of what was supposed to happen if you were to resign. So, as I understand it, you signed a letter of resignation, is that correct?
Yes, I said to a person that, yes, we signed a resolution and said, look, let's divest.
Yes, but was there a letter of resignation or a resolution of the CC?
Yes.
Okay. And what was your understanding of what should happen for the resignation to take effect?
Well, I'd ask a person within Moloantoa who subsequently appointed somebody to process. My understanding at that point was that would resign, but would then start valuing and seeing what's due to Moloantoa, the company that I'd worked for 11 years and built from scratch. How do I get back my sweat capital? How do I get whatever is due to me? That and then over time would unwind it. But the issue was, I couldn't just leave and say, what's due to me is not there, because I was building wealth, I was not just working.
Yes.
Yes.
Now, so if you could just tell me step by step what your understanding was of what needed to be done and who needed to do it in order for the resignation to take effect. Now, if you're talking about an employee in a company, when you want to resign, you might do a letter, sign it, hand it over to your employer, and then you know that's a resignation happens. So that's what I'm looking for in terms of this resignation. What way was your understanding of the various steps that needed to be done for it to be effective?
Chairperson, I was active in 4 companies, well, 3 companies in a CC. I followed the same process. I said to this person who was helping me, please get somebody to resign my directorships in Moloantoa Holdings, in Exolve, in Present Perfect Investments, and my membership. And then they made us sign a resolution. I expected them to submit that the same at CIPC. But I was very full aware that with a CC, you might take a bit of time to start unwinding, especially if you want to take your members' interest out, because you have to value, because members' interest is not like directorship, it's linked to your shares in the company. So you don't just leave and leave your equity and equity in the closed corporation. That part I understood. But the intention was to get rid of the 67% and take the money.
Would I be correct in saying what you are saying is you understood that there needed to be a resolution reflecting that you were resigning, but that the resignation, as far as you were concerned, was not going to take effect until you had clarified certain issues, such as what happens to your financial, your capital and whatever. Is that correct?
That's correct,
Yes.
Chairperson.
Yes. Okay, all right.
If it was a company, I'd know that I'm selling this share,
Yes.
it's worth X,
Yes.
but I would have resigned as a director.
Yes,
And
yes.
I don't have to be a director to be a shareholder.
Yes.
But you have to be a member and a shareholder at the same time in a
Yes.
closed corporation. I suppose at that time, there was even a review of the Companies Act to deal with that closed corporation and issue, because
Yes.
it was always a problem.
Yes. And at that time of that resolution of resignation, were you the only member of the CC?
No, I had 67% shares.
You had 67% shares, and there was one or more other members?
Well, there was one person who just held an interest there.
Oh, okay, all right. Thank you, Mr. Chaskelson. I hope that has clarified a bit.
Thanks, Jen. And maybe if we can just clarify, that other person, as I understand it, is Florence Matlakala Makhubo, who is your mother.
That's correct.
Thank you. Now, from your answers to the chair, I understood that you were wanting to divest yourself of your interest, which would then complete your withdrawal from Moloantoa.
Yes, after valuation, yes, that's correct.
So what steps did you take to divest yourself of your interest? Who were you going to sell your interest to?
Quite honestly, we wanted to shut it down and keep it dormant. Because initially I didn't know what's going to happen after 5 years. I wanted to go back into business. I never saw myself as a career, what I'm doing now. I did not see myself as that. But the issue was, I was central to the business, and part of the work that it did, basically, when the contracts were finished, we thought would divest. So that was the initial thing. Value, what are the outstanding contracts? How much present value can we get from them, if at all, and then we divest.
But I'm not sure I understand your answer, because you said you had one idea of leaving the company dormant or leaving the CC dormant, and then I presume going back to rejoin if you left politics at a later stage. Is that what you meant?
Give myself options, Chair. I could probably go to corporate, I don't know. I just wanted to give myself options.
But what were you going to leave dormant?
All I'm saying is that when we say we divest, shut it down or leave it dormant, but completely that stops operating.
And your interest in it would be what?
Would be what's outstanding and the value of contracts.
So you would either, I presume, find someone who was going to buy that interest and then give you value for it. Or was that an option?
That was an option. Or the option you go to whoever you've got a contract with, you sell that contract, you cede that contract to somebody else, you get value. There have been different options that you look at.
What steps did you take to explore any of those options? Can you describe those to us?
No. I had left the person I was with at Mulano Holdings to help me do it. I was more focused on dealing with the billing problems in the city of Johannesburg.
So was that person Mr. Chikani?
That's correct.
So you left it in Mr. Chikani's hands as to what was going to become of your interest in Moloantoa?
What to do with Moloantoa and how to proceed, and what are the steps we're going to follow. Yes.
And what did Mr. Chikani report to you in relation to those steps?
As and when some contracts, especially the regiment's one, was continuing, we couldn't find the lady that we gave power of attorney to, gave him an email saying this thing's going to take time to happen, and there's an email proof to that. So we just looked at it and said, look, let's wind down whatever we have, and if possible, but as contracts continue, just continue them.
So can I take you to a document at page 946? Is that the resolution that was adopted to record your resignation from Moloantoa?
Yes, that's the resolution that we advised that we should sign.
Yes, and if you go up a page, you'll see that there was due notice of a meeting of Moloantoa Consulting in advance of that resolution being adopted.
That's correct.
And if you go up a page further to 944, you'll see a power of attorney.
That's correct.
And that one is actually a power of attorney given by you. And if you go up to page 943, there's a similar power of attorney given by your mother.
That's correct.
Is that the power of attorney that you were referring to earlier?
Yes.
No other powers of attorney other than these two?
No.
And the person who you were speaking to is the person who you asked to act on this power of attorney, is this Tilivali Gertrude Ralabegwa?
That's correct.
Can we go down to your power of attorney, the one that you gave, on page 944? There's special power of attorney for resignation of directors. Of course, there aren't directors in a closed corporation. Were you aware of that at the time?
Chair was aware, and I asked, they said, no, this is what we should sign. That's the advice I got.
Okay. But let's leave that aside for a moment. It says special power of attorney, I, the undersigned, Geoffrey Moloantoa Makhubo, being a director of Moloantoa Consulting, do hereby nominate, constitute, and appoint Ms. Ralabegwa, the ID, with full power of substitution to be my lawful agent in my name, place, and stead, to deliver to the Registrar of Companies the original COR 39 and or any other documents or form that may be required for the appointment of directors, to make such amendment, addition, or alteration to the CRR and such other documents and forms which my said agent may deem fit, or which may be required by the Registrar of Companies, and to initial or sign as may be required each of such amendments, additions, or alterations. This was the only power of attorney that you gave.
That's correct.
So this power of attorney was really enabling Ms. Ralia Vegwa to go to the CIPC and effect whatever changes were necessary to reflect your resignation as a member.
That's correct.
It wasn't giving her any power of attorney to dispose of your interest or to do anything in that regard.
That's correct.
And your explanation, as I understood it earlier on, was that that's what failed to happen. She didn't act on this power of attorney. So she didn't go off to the CIPC and say, please remove Mr. Makhubo as member of the CC. That was the problem.
That's what happened, yes.
And if she had, that would have happened at the CIPC.
That's correct.
Well, that's what you wanted to happen at the CIPC.
Correct, Chair.
But was she meant to go there? Was she meant to do that as yet? Or was she meant to wait until all the issues that needed to be sorted out were sorted out?
Chair, I just signed this to say, look, we need to effect this. However, as I say, we needed to value and do all those sorts of things and see what we can take out of the company.
So what is the answer to the question whether she was meant to take this resignation or send this resignation resolution to the Intellectual Property Office before those issues were sorted out, or she was not meant to do that until those other issues were sorted out?
We did not specify on that process, Chair.
What
I didn't think that it was necessary.
What was your contemplation? If you found out after the day after this resolution that she had taken the resolution to the CIPC office, what would have been your reaction before these other issues were sorted out?
I suppose it would be speculative, but for me, the CC and its employees were still people I know. As you say, so the winding down would not have been, because the 100% would have reverted to the other member, according to the member's interest, so we could still value and still do what we wanted to do.
Mr. Chaskasi.
So the CIPC would still continue, but your 67% interest would have gone away.
The way I understand the CCs is that your membership is linked to your percentage shareholding. That's how I understand it.
No, that is correct. But if your membership had been removed at CIPC, then suddenly you would have lost your interest in Moloantoa. Is that not the case?
As I suppose I was still getting it back in terms of valuing and closing it here. But on the CIPC, you're correct.
Yes, but as a matter of law, when that happened, you would no longer have a legal interest in Moloantoa, and if your mother at that stage fell out with you and took the attitude that she was going to keep all of Moloantoa for herself, you would have had no legal recourse.
Correct.
Did you want that to happen?
No.
So you wanted to retain your 67% interest until you could have found some suitable way of disposing it?
I wanted to get value out of what I'd worked for.
Yes, no, I'm not suggesting you didn't work for it. But you didn't want to give up that interest. You wanted to hang on to it until you got value for it.
I wanted to get value from what I worked for, yes.
Yes. So the fact that your resignation wasn't reflected at CIPC may be because Mrs. Ralia Vegwa didn't implement her instructions. But as a matter of underlying reality, you didn't want to give up your 67% interest in Moloantoa until such time as you'd received value for it.
In reality, I wanted value out of it, and this power of attorney meant exactly what it meant. That's
So-
why I wanted to act on it.
But the point is that if you didn't get value for your 67%, you were not intending to give up that 67%. Is that not right?
Chairperson, I suppose my statement is very clear. I wanted to get value out of Moloantoa Consulting, and this power of attorney needed to have acted in a particular way. Whether the intentions or not that I wanted to hold on, I don't think that's correct. All I said, I wanted to get value out of, I'm avoiding the semantics that I wanted to hold on till you get this.
Okay,
Let me try and see if you would agree with my formulation of what you mean. The one thing you were clear about, you didn't want to lose to forfeit your 67% interest. Whatever happened, you did not want to forfeit that.
I wanted value for it, Chairperson.
Yes, you wanted, if it went to somebody else, you wanted to get the financial equivalent of it. You wanted to sell it or whatever. You didn't want it to go to waste. You didn't want it to be acquired by somebody without you getting anything for it.
I didn't want to give it away for free, yes.
Yeah, you didn't want to give it away for free. Yes, yes. That's one thing that is quite clear.
That's correct.
Yeah. And if resigning your membership of the CC was going to mean that you give it up for free, then you didn't want that resignation. You wanted the resignation to happen at a time when you would get value for your 67% interest.
Chair, it's correct that divesting meant that I will need to divest to get value from the company. If it was like it happened in Exolve or which other one, if it was that, I would simply resign my directorship and still hold on to my share certificate up until I can sell it. That's correct.
Yes.
But in this case, because they're intertwined, maybe that's when you say you will hold on to your interest because they're intertwined.
Yes.
That's correct. Or I could give somebody and say, look, I'll pay you in future, something like that. But we're correct to say 11 or 12 years of hardship and building and working. For me, I didn't want it to go to waste. That's correct.
Okay, Mr. Chaskalson.
If that was the case, Mr. Makhubo, so long as you hadn't disposed of that interest, you hadn't found someone to give you value, can you not see that there was a potential for conflict? That you had an interest, you had an ongoing interest in Moloantoa, and you were, as MMC, presiding over a contract which provided a very steady income stream to Moloantoa.
Firstly, I don't preside over a contract. Secondly, at that point, I did not see that there was a conflict. Declared that I own Moloantoa Consulting, and I would not do anything to benefit the contract in the city.
To benefit the contract in the city? I see. We'll come to that a little bit later, but I want to clarify I wanted to get to the second half of your explanation first. We've dealt with your interest. As I understood, the second part of your response to the question of conflict is you said councillors don't have say over procurement decisions. So there couldn't be a conflict there.
Councillors do not participate in bid specification. They don't participate in bid evaluation. They don't participate in executive acquisitions committee. The only time that a report would come to mayoral committee and council is when, like the banking tender that goes more than 3 years, and a section 33 of the MFMA would have been, public participation for comments, national treasury, provincial treasury, is to be informed of those responses to a contract going beyond 3 years. That's the only time that a report will come to say we've done section 33, and section 33 has found nothing do you agree to that? That's all.
So saving the Section 33 situation, councillors don't have any hands-on involvement in procurement decisions.
Yes, I mean, there's another section, I can't remember, it was section 16 or something, where when you change the material.
Yes, I think
conditions
it's
of a
40,
contract.
could it be 43?
I can't remember the section well, but let's say you want to change the amount or something like that, then again, you go to public. You ask the public, and then councillors get to be told that the public have been consulted, and there's been no problem. Say for those two situations that I know of.
Yes. Now, while you had this intention to resign as soon as you could find someone to give you value, did you remove yourself from active management of the affairs of Moloantoa?
I was not on a day-to-day basis, but I remained the only signatory.
So you remained the only signatory to
As I was.
Moloantoa's account?
We didn't change, yeah.
Yeah.
But there was somebody dealing with the online banking thing.
Yes. So after 2011, no one other than you had authority over Moloantoa's accounts as far as FNB, who ran those accounts, was concerned.
Yes, as I say, internally there was somebody who used to do payments and all that using the online system.
Yes, but ultimately you were the only one with signing power.
Signing, yes.
Can I take you to a document in that regard? Can you go to volume 3, page 64? 3, page 64.
Is that page 364 on?
Bundle 3,
Bundle
page
3.
64. I'm sorry about that.
Okay.
64, you say?
64 years. uh, 3-64.
Oh, okay.
And do you recognize that document at Bundle 3, page 64? It says at the front, in contact setup screen.
I see my signature, but I can't remember what this document is all about.
So this is a document that FNB, it's an in-contact setup screen, which records authorizations and customer details from FNB to in relation to its customers. In this case, the customer is Moloantoa Consulting, and in contact is the feature that FNB has where they send you SMSs in relation to your transactions. You see your signature down there,
Yes,
and the date is 13/09/2018, 13 September 2018.
Yes.
So as late as 13 September 2018, that's a good 7 years after you were intending to resign from Moloantoa, you were issuing instructions to FNB in relation to the Moloantoa Consulting account.
Chair, the account is still, as we speak, under my own profile, my personal profile.
It's under your personal profile.
It's under my profile, yes, my
Yes.
FNB login profile.
So you have your personal bank accounts on that profile. You also have Moloantoa.
They are all linked.
They're all
At some
listed
point, they were linked when I was a signatory of the ANC. They're all linked.
Yes. But this particular account is Moloantoa's account, and I just want to clarify with you that as of September 2018, you were still the sole signatory on the Moloantoa account as far as FNB was concerned.
That's correct.
As we stand today, are you the sole signatory on the Moloantoa account?
That's correct.
And do you play a role in relation to Moloantoa's financial affairs? Do you administer those affairs?
There's very little happening, but I watch what's happening, yes.
And well, there may be very little happening now, but from 2011 till the start of 2016, there was a contract with regiment fund managers in relation to the management of the sinking fund of the city, and I imagine quite a lot was happening. Would you be keeping an eye on that?
Yes, I would see what's going on, yes, that's correct.
You would, yes.
And Overking and them would tell me what's going on as well.
Yes. Can I take you to page 16 of volume 3? At page 16, you see a photocopy of the front and back of a cash check drawn on Moloantoa Consulting for 300,000. So it's a cash check for 300,000 dated 3 August 2013. And on the back, there is in handwriting with a stamp from FNB, check confirmed with Mr. Moloantoa Makhubo, and then there's a cell phone number, and the time is 12:23, 3 August 2013. Can I ask if, is that cell phone number, we don't need to mention it, but is that your cell phone number?
That's my number, yeah.
Yes. And do you recall authorizing FNB to pay 300,000 rands in cash out against this check on Moloantoa Consulting?
I can't remember that far back. But as I said, about the detail of the check on the 3rd of August 2013.
Were there a lot of checks for 300,000 rands being cashed at Moloantoa Consulting?
There were checks cashed, that's right.
No, I'm talking about 300,000 rands.
Chair, I can't say. There were 350,000 or so, I can't say.
But would you accept against this photocopy that chances are that FNB phoned you and confirmed with you that they could cash this check of 300,000 rands drawn on Moloantoa Consulting in August 2013?
Chances are that, but I mean, I can't verify that they indeed called me.
Can I ask what Moloantoa Consulting was doing that needed a check for 300,000 rands to be cashed?
I can't remember exactly what this check would have been for, but as I say in my affidavit, there would have been various things where we used cash to assist members of the organization, to assist all other people asking for help.
Can I take you down a page? Page 17, you'll see a check on the 24th of October for 200,000, also cash. That one's got your signature on it.
Yes, I would have signed checks, but yes, that's got my signature, that's right.
Yes, and if we go down to the next page, page 18, another one for 100,000, this time in March 2014, is that your signature on the cash check?
Yes, I was a sole signatory.
Now, earlier you said that in your affidavit you described the business of Moloantoa as being in the accounting space. Is that correct?
That's correct.
What is a business in the accounting space doing that requires amounts this large to be turned into cash?
As I say, Chair, I would need to think, but there were various things that we would have done, depending on the date, when volunteers ask for money, I would help from here if we get to, but would assist a whole lot of people.
Let me take you to how you explained this in your affidavit, if you go to volume 2, page 423. Paragraph 62.
Paragraph?
Did you say paragraph 62? Mr.
62.
Chair? Yes. On page 423.
423.
423.
I think it may be in the incorrect file, bundle 2. So it should be 2-423, not 3-423, but if you're in the right. So you were asked to answer a question, cash check withdrawals from the FNB Kilani account of Moloantoa Consulting aggregating to more than 3.5 million in the period 2009 to 2017. Your answer was, I have not quantified the amount of cash withdrawals over the said period, and my response thereto should not be construed as an admission of the aforesaid amount. Fair enough. However, any amount, if withdrawn, was in the course of business of Moloantoa and would also be withdrawals for personal expenses. So let me ask two separate questions. What business of Moloantoa would require Moloantoa to cash a check for 300,000 rands?
Chair, I must say that would assist us Moloantoa Consulting people, and there's no, I don't say that there's a business transaction that we needed, but to draw money and assist people.
So Moloantoa assists people in the course of its business?
Well, that's what we did.
Yes. And so this 300,000 was dispersed to individuals on behalf of Moloantoa?
Well, there could be comrades, there could be, well, yeah, they come to me and say, look, and then I would assist, yes.
Personal expenses, do you have any personal expenses that would ever require you to have cash in hundreds of thousands of rands?
That period we're talking about, there were expenses that were, especially 2013, 12, 13, yeah.
13, 14, but what sort of personal expenses were you paying cash for in these amounts?
Furniture, was renovating, pool, etc.
And you're paying cash for that?
Yes, I mean, my builder at Swaneville was to pay him cash. Stays in Swaneville.
Okay. That was a bit of a detour into questions of cash, but let's get back to the conflict. As I understand your version, you have continued to play an active role in the management of Moloantoa's finances after 2011. Is that correct?
Well, I continue to watch them, yeah.
You continue to watch them. Beyond watching, what did you do? Or beyond watching and authorizing the cashing of checks from time to time and drawing checks, what did you do?
What did I?
What did you do beyond watching?
How do you mean?
Well, you said you kept an eye on the
Yes,
accounts.
I mean,
you watched the
we've
accounts.
just seen now that they would come to me to sign checks.
Yes.
I think Mr. Chaskalson may have meant whether there was any work that you did for the CC apart from watching. Well, he might not have meant that, but then take the question as coming from me if he didn't mean that.
No, I did not do work for the CC.
Did not do any work for the CC. Okay.
Did you give any directions to the CC in relation to the accounts?
That's correct.
So you were still in control of the financial affairs of the CC?
Largely, yes. They come to me for for certain things, but operationally overcame was.
And you could see from being in control of the accounts that the primary source of revenue of the CC continued to be the regiment fund manager's accounts. Is that not correct?
We knew that, yes.
Yes. Can I take you now to 2015?
Which bundle do you want us to go to, Mr. Justice?
We'll still be in bundle 2.
Oh, okay.
And earlier in your evidence, you mentioned Section 33 of the MFMA. And Section 33 of the MFMA gives councillors a very important role in contracts which impose financial obligations on a municipality of more than 3 years. Is that correct? Council has an active role in those contracts. And I presume the MMC for Finance has a particularly active role because the MMC for Finance would have to assess any documents that go before council before they reach council in relation to contracts of this nature.
Yes, the department would ask the MMC to say, we request council to approve a contract more than 3 years, and then you'd say, yes, let's take it to council, but it's got no authority to say yes or no.
Can I ask you to go to page 492 of bundle 2? Are you there?
That's correct.
Can you confirm that this is an invoice that Moloantoa issued to Regiment's fund managers on the 30th of June 2015 for an amount of 609,177.73 plus VAT, giving a total of 694,462.61?
That's correct.
And then if you go over the page at 476, you'll see a statement.
47?
493.
476. 476. I'm sorry, I'm jumping around.
You said we go over the page.
Yes, it's over the page in my notes. It's not over the page in anybody else's notes. I apologize for that. 476. There is an end-of-year statement for 2015 from Moloantoa, the regiment's fund manager's account. Will you confirm that that's correct? It's a 31 December 2015 statement issued by Moloantoa to regiment's fund managers.
Yeah, I see it here. Yeah, I mean, they would have sent it here.
And that this is a Moloantoa statement. Can you confirm that?
Yes, I confirm it, yes. But
let's look at 30 June 2015. There we see that outperformance fee invoice of 694,462.61 reflected as a debit. And at that point, regiment's fund manager's balance, in other words, what they owed to you at Moloantoa, was 993,370.47 cents. Is that correct?
Well, I see it here, Chair.
So regiment's fund managers owed Moloantoa at that point just under $1 million on 30 June 2015.
I'm seeing it here, yes. That's
You're seeing it here.
Yes.
Well, you have no reason to doubt that that this statement is accurate.
Yes.
Let's go to page 614 of this bundle. And $614, it's a City of Johannesburg Mayoral Committee report, or a report that served at the Mayoral Committee on the 23rd of July 2015. And this, in fact, is a report under Section 33, or for the purposes of Section 33 of the MFMA. And the report said, at approval of the Portfolio Management Agreement for the appointment of the redemption fund asset managers, a strategic thrust, well-governed and managed city. Objective purpose of this report is to obtain council approval to enter into the 5-year portfolio management agreement for the city's redemption fund now. So this is finally the contract that's going to take the place of that old 2006 Regiment's Fund Managers contract. Is that correct?
Say that again?
This is the contract that's going to take the place of that original contract first awarded to Moloantoa and Regiments back in 2006.
Yeah, I would understand so, yeah. Second one, yeah.
And then there is a bit of a summary under 3, and it says the required notice of advert in terms of section 33(1)A containing the information was published in local and national newspapers. City's projected financial obligations referred to in section 33(1)B)(1 and 2 for the 5-year contract are stated in the financial implications. In terms of 33(1)C, City needs to determine whether it will secure significant capital investment. On and on it goes. And there are legal implications and financial implications. And if we come to the resolution at page 625, we see that the mayoral committee made a resolution that the contract under item 17 attached here to as Annexure C to manage the city's redemption fund between the City of Joburg and Regiment's fund managers is approved, and that the city manager be authorized to sign the contract referred to in Annexure C on behalf of the city. Is that correct?
Yes, it's correct to approve any period beyond 3 years.
Yes.
But goes to council from there, yeah.
Yes. Do you recall who chaired this meeting of the mayoral committee?
I saw in the minutes that I chaired the first part, and then former Mayor Parkstow chaired the latter part.
Yes. And where did this item fall in?
When I read these minutes, because I can't even recall, Councillor Tau was chairing the meeting at that time.
Yes. Did you participate in the meeting at that time?
Sorry?
Did you participate in the meeting at that time?
I would think I was there. I can't recall whether I was there, whether the item was approved or not.
Yes.
I can't recall, but I was not chairing the meeting at that time.
So you were not chairing, but you were part of the mayoral committee.
Yeah.
Can we then go forward to the council meeting of 30 July? So that a recommendation from this mayoral committee meeting in which you participate goes to council on 30 July. Were you present at council at 30 July 2015?
I tried to check what page is that?
Sorry, it is at page 610.
I can't tell, Chair, if ever we don't have I can go check if we don't have the attendance register.
Okay, we'll get the attendance register. Can we just go to the resolution? That the resolution at page 611 is that the contract attached here to as Annexure C to manage the city's redemption fund between City of Joburg and Regiment's fund managers is approved. And the city manager is authorized to sign the contract. Do you remember that resolution?
Well, I sit here, yes.
So Regiments was, having had the original contract from 2006, was then given the second contract in 2015. Is that correct?
Yes, through the process of the EAC and all that, yes.
Sorry, through the process of?
Of the EAC.
What, the EAC?
Executive Acquisitions Committee.
Executive, yes, but because this was a Section 33 contract, it was also a contract that went to council and mayoral committee.
That's correct.
Yes, so if mayoral committee said no, it wouldn't, if mayoral committee and council said no, it wouldn't have gone through.
Yes.
And do you recall whether any of the bidders other than Regiment's fund managers were made it through to round 2 of this adjudication?
I wouldn't know, Chair. I saw for the first time in this bundle the EAC report.
I see.
For the first time.
Well, it wouldn't be the first time because you were at the mayoral committee meeting that considered the report.
The EAC report does not serve at mayoral committee.
It doesn't serve at mayoral committee,
No.
It serves at council.
No, even the EAC reports does not serve at council. They bring a report already with recommendations.
Yes. So mayoral committee, so mayoral committee and council don't even get to see the EAC report.
No.
They exercise their
time-
own independent discretion.
In the time I've been a mayoral committee member, no.
I see. But mayoral committee and council must exercise their own independent discretion in relation to these decisions. It's not just rubber stamping EAC.
The report you see is the report that gives a recommendation.
Yes, but my question is, does mayoral committee and council just rubber stamp that recommendation, or do they exercise an independent discretion?
Except when there's a obligation the financial obligation on the city imposed beyond 3 years.
Yes,
Which is what we concern ourselves with.
Yes, so in this case, mayoral committee and council had to look at the matter with an independent discretion. Is that not correct?
Discretion of whether 3 years or 5 years.
No? A discretion as to whether they're going to authorize the contract to regiments.
The discretion whether it's 3 years or 5 years, that's what we apply ourselves with.
No.
We don't say regiments, we don't do that. At least I don't do that.
Well, what you could say is we're not going to give this to regiments. We've investigated this contract. We're not satisfied that regiments should do it. Go out to tender again.
That you can say, go to tender again, but generally, when they come and say we've done the whole process, it's got probity, people looked at it, there's been, so you believe what they say they've done because the accounting officer is accountable at the end of the day.
Yes, but we can have a legal debate inside the commission later. I'm telling you that at a legal level, the mayoral committee and the council have to exercise an independent discretion in these cases.
Chairperson, I'm unsure what discretion is. Yes, you can say, take this thing back to tender. I suppose you ultimately will have to say yes, it's 5 years or not. But why you go to section 33 is because we are imposing a financial obligation on the city more than 3 years. If it was less than 3 years, do not even reach mayoral committee. If it was less than 3 years, do not reach mayoral committee, no council. So you only get involved on that period extension. Anything that's beyond 3 years.
No, with respect, Mr. Makhubo, the legal position is because binding the city to a commitment of more than 3 years is sufficiently important to require the attention of the council must look at the obligation that the city is going to carry for 3 years and more and must decide whether the city should carry that obligation. It's not an issue of deciding, well, we'll only give 3 years. The issue is, are we going to undertake this obligation to regiment's fund managers on this contract?
So your contention, Chair, is that the obligation is not the financial obligation over 3 years. It's a financial obligation and the person that is going to. Is that what we?
There is an obligation that the city will carry for a period of 5 years on this recommendation. Is the city prepared to carry this obligation on that contract? Why the section requires the whole contract to be put before the council.
The conditions of the contract, yes.
No, in fact, the exact contract that is going to be signed with regiments is what the section requires.
That's correct.
So the council has to scrutinize that contract and say, do we want to bind the council on that contract?
That's correct. That's correct. And
part of that question is, do we want to bind on these terms to regiment's fund managers for 5 years?
Well, I wouldn't choose one over the other. I'm saying that it says we looked at the conditions, the financial obligations, the whole contract is there. Yes, we'll cease regiments, but I don't think we can turn it back. At least in my experience, never happened that we don't want this bank, we want this bank. We don't want this developer, we want this developer.
Well, you can't say we don't want regiments, we want colour fields, because the contract has to be advertised to the public. And the only contract that's been advertised to the public is the regiment's contract. But you can say, we've looked at this and we don't want regiments, we don't want to be in this relationship with regiments for 5 years. And in fact, your obligation is to examine whether you want to incur this obligation on behalf of the city to that counterparty.
Yeah, we've never looked at it like that. I've never looked at it like that, that I can like the conditions and the money and the financial obligations and then say, just because I don't like this person at that point, we don't. I mean, it's happened. Banking, many of the Section 33s we've looked at.
Well, let me give you an example. You're aware, well, I'll get to my example. Let me get to my example a little later. Let me not do it now. You participate in the process that awards this contract to regiment's fund managers.
Yes, I was in a, assume that I was in a council meeting and a mayoral committee at that time that approved that the obligation for 5 years and the conditions of the contract going to regiments must be approved.
Yes. Let's then go to the situation in your private affairs, not your council affairs. Can you turn to page 774? Remember that council, the mayoral committee was 23 July, the council was 30 July. Page 774 is an extract from Regiment's bank statement. And what we see is that on the 28th of August, less than a month after the council approves, Regiments pays Moloantoa 799,197. Do you recall that payment?
Well, I sit here, I can't say I recall here.
Well, maybe let's go back to 492, which is that end of year statement. And you see on 28th August...
For what? Was it 492 and it's not?
Yeah, 492.
492.
492.
2492.
I think, Mr. Chesterton, when you say 2492...
sorry, volume, bundle 2, 492.
Yeah, it's better.
Bundle
that
2,
way.
492.
My 492 is that invoice.
Yeah, 492
Is a statement, not an invoice.
statement. Bundle 2,
492. If you turn around the other page, the other side.
493.
if you look at the, on the spine of the bundle, is it written flow of funds bundle 02? If you just look, just want to make sure you're,
Yes, that's
okay,
02. I'm on FOF 02492.
okay, then you must be on the right page. Does it not look like your page, Mr. Chesterton?
It's
Just show it towards me because Mr. Chesterton is looking at the computer.
no, I can, but
Oh, you
I'll
can
see
see.
the same page there. It looks a little bit shorter. Well, let me describe to you what I see on 492. It's a statement that we looked at a short while ago where I pointed out to you that at 30 June, regiments owed Moloantoa 993,370 rands. Do you recall that?
That statement. That's correct. Yeah.
Yes. Well, the same statement, it's the same document, says that after this payment, the amounts outstanding by regiments had now dropped to only 101,000. 101,925,976. So this payment came in on the 28th of August, according to the statement, and and as of the 28th of August, what had once been a balance of just under 1 million was now just over 100,000.
Mr. Chesterton, I'm not sure.
Am I looking at, have I got the wrong document?
There are some things you are saying which don't appear on page 492. Are you looking at 492?
I'm looking at
Together
my
with another
492, it
page.
may be 476. Can we try 476? is the statement on 476.
Okay.
Yes, I've got 476.
So this is the end of year statement of 2012. And let's just rewind a little bit. We look at 30 June 2015.
Of 2012 or 2015, Mr.
2015, Chair.
Yeah.
30 June 2015, the outstanding balance that regiments owed Moloantoa was 993,370.47 cents. There are then some movements on the account, but the biggest is a payment of 799,197 on 28 August, less than a month after the resolution to reappoint regiments, leaving a balance of 101,925. So in the period over which the mayoral committee considered the regiment's renewal contract and the council awarded it, the outstanding, a month before this, the outstanding balance was 993,370 that regiments owed Moloantoa, and a month later, the outstanding balance was 101,925. Do you not see the potential for an appearance of a conflict of interest there?
The way I see it here, I mean, you are winding down an existing contract and transferring to the second one. Monies outstanding are being finalized. I clearly don't.
You'd sent an invoice at the end of June.
Well, this part I was not involved in, but what I can say is that it makes sense to me that the first quarter payment that comes at the end of June must be billed.
Yes, but wouldn't it make sense for that payment to be paid in July?
Chair, I wouldn't, as I say, I would have assumed that's the first quarter. I don't know the details of what the issue is, but when it gets paid July or June, I would not answer for that.
Right. Well, let's go on in the chronology. We've seen a payment from regiments to Moloantoa of 799,197 on the 28th of August. Can I take you to bundle 3, page 849?
I'm there.
And if we go hang on a minute. If we go to the 29th of August 2015, the day after regiments pays Moloantoa, can you go up to 29 August 2015?
Yes.
This is a table of payments that go from Moloantoa into your personal account. And we see on 29 August 2015, the day after regiments pay Moloantoa, R500,000 is transferred from Moloantoa into your personal account. Do you have a comment on that?
Without having the details, big amounts would go to the call account for higher interest in the same profile. So that's that. There's no other comment?
Sorry, big amounts go to the call account on the same profile. So you're treating the accounts of Moloantoa as essentially interchangeable with your own personal accounts?
No.
You're moving 500,000 from an account in the name of Moloantoa into an account in your personal name.
Yes, that's what happened, but I was not treating them the same, no.
Sorry, you're not treating them as the same?
Yeah. No.
But you've just taken 500,000 that belongs to Moloantoa and you've put it in an account that belongs to you.
I would have thought it went into the call account, and you asked me to comment, Chair, around this. As I say, I'm seeing this, I don't have underlying detail. I'm assuming it's gone to a call account.
Sorry, whose call account? Is it your call account, your personal call account, or Moloantoa's?
It's in my name.
It's in your name?
Yeah.
Yes. So 500,000 has gone out of Moloantoa's account into an account in your name. The day after, Regiments has paid Moloantoa 799,000, which in turn is less than a month after you've participated in a decision to give Regiments a fund management contract for the city for another 5 years. Is that correct?
I think the context is not correct. Regiments owed Moloantoa Consulting. Regiments Capital owed Moloantoa Consulting the money that was duly invoiced and paid. So I suppose what we are saying is that what happens between Moloantoa and myself, I don't know how it links to the council decision. They've got no relationship, not at all.
You say they've got no relationship. Looking from the outside, I want to put it to you that there is an appearance that they may very well have a relationship, at least an appearance that they may very well have a relationship.
It's a very wrong appearance, and it's incorrect.
So you say it's incorrect.
I maintain it's incorrect.
Okay. Chair, I see that we've reached 1 o'clock. There are some more questions that I want to pursue along this line, but
Yes.
would it be a convenient time to take the lunch adjournment?
Let's talk about that. We have the other witness coming later on, but you know how you want to manage the time. Do you propose that we take the adjournment, lunch adjournment now, and you continue with Mr. Makhubo at 2? Or did you want to continue a little bit, or for a certain time, and or what do you have in mind?
Chair, if we could continue for another half hour now, I might be able to complete this section with Mr. Makhubo, and then we can come back
Yes,
at a later stage.
yes. Well, in terms of the other witness, maybe it's not going to impact much, because from what I understood from you yesterday, we should be able to finish with him as well.
Yes, we certainly will be able to finish.
Okay, maybe
with
let's
Mr.
take
Ramosebudi.
the lunch break, come back at 2, you continue with Mr. Makhubo, and then maybe you'll finish with him at 2:30 or thereabout, 2:45, and then when we are done with him, then I'll hear the other witness.
Thank you, Chair.
Is that fine?
I wonder if we might not notify, we will try to notify Mr. Ramosebudi and his attorneys
Yes. Yeah.
to come later.
Yeah, okay, all right. All right, we are going to adjourn for lunch. We'll come back at 2. We adjourn.